I'm a general internist, and having chosen to come to Washington, D.C. when it was still Chocolate City in 1985, 76% of the population was African American. There have been a lot of changes that have happened. One of the very distressing changes that actually has worsened is the gap between life expectancy based on where you live. So the Virginia Commonwealth University and others did just recently published a study, Uneven Opportunities, and I would encourage you to look that up. If you're a resident of Georgetown, you can expect to live 94 years. If you are a resident of Anacostia, you can expect to live 66.6 years. So that's a 27.6-year gap in the nation's capital of arguably the richest country in the world. I don't know about you, but I was compelled to do something about that. That is inexcusable. It is obscene. Furthermore, because, averages don't always tell the truth, as we all know, when we look at Ward 8, the HIV rate is the same as Namibia's. The infant mortality rate is the same as El Salvador and Cambodia. And as an academic and in medicine, we have really held ourselves aloof from at all really engaging in a meaningful way, with some exceptions, of course, historically speaking, with communities. Actually, we have been the perpetuators of historic, and I would argue ongoing abuses when it comes to the communities. We just had an event at Busboys and Poets on sickle cell disease, where we invited the president of the Sickle Cell Association, researchers from the NHLBI, as well as people who themselves have sickle cell disease. And we shared some of the statistics that when you have a crisis, sickle cell crisis, which is exceedingly painful, and with pain, you can't see it, and physicians, if you can't measure it, then, you're skeptical. And certainly we know about the differences between how Black patients and white patients get treated for pain. The healthcare system is so horrible to patients with sickle cell disease. 86% of them decide to stay home rather than go to the emergency department when they have a crisis. Furthermore, studies show that when they go to the emergency department, how they're treated by us is so horrible that their pain actually increases. We sensitize their pain. I'm not here to continue to talk to you about how horrible things are. I'm here to talk to you about a solution, because when I decided to start the Rodham Institute 6 years ago, you mentioned my background as an academic medical educator. I was really dismayed about what I saw as the jading of really wonderful young people that would choose to start medical school. And nowadays they do so much in the way of community service and work beforehand. But boy, do we beat that out of them by the time they are done with their residency training. And I kind of held a mirror up to myself, and I said, what is the problem? And I said, the problem is us. We do not engage our learners with the community in a respectful and dignified manner. We're only seeing people when they are at their absolute worst, which is when you're sick, and in crisis. And we're not really giving any kind of voice to the community. So what can we do about that? Well, first of all, whenever you're trying to make change, you've got to listen. Now, I'm of Egyptian heritage, and so I believe that there is nothing new under the sun, with all due respect. We just keep rediscovering things. And so in rediscovering things, we have to listen, and we have to listen to what people's perspectives are, and especially when we're talking about underserved, under-resourced communities, people usually have the solutions. They may not have the resources, but they certainly have the wisdom. And so listening became extremely important. So the first thing that we did, I did a listening tour. I went to Wards 7 and 8, started to find out what the issues sort of in real life that were happening, hearing from returning citizens, learning from actually one of the people who established the Ward 8 Arts Council, Tindani, that actually Berry Farm, which is within, and actually my nephew made a movie about him for his project, Renaissance Man. Not that I'm plugging it, there's no money involved. But it turns out that in Ward 8, you've heard of Berry Farm. Yeah. Berry Farm has nothing to do with the late Marion Barry. People think that it's because of his name. It actually it was a berry farm tobacco plantation. And after the Emancipation Proclamation, the freedmen were given 400 acres, which they transformed into a thriving African-American farming community. And after they would till the land, they, by lantern, would walk to Howard because they built Howard University. So at its heyday, Berry Farm, 1 in 4 adults actually attended Howard University. Now 1 in 4 are in the prison system. So when people, physicians in particular, say, well, you have to educate people about eating fruits and vegetables. People planted fruits and vegetables. And if you talk to some of the older residents of Berry Farm, they will tell you they used to actually pick fruit off the tree. So listening is extremely important. We also commissioned one of our community health workers, our colleagues, Ms. Khadija Tribble, and to do an environmental scan. What are the health priorities of residents living in Wards 7 and 8? So it wasn't HIV, it wasn't diabetes, it wasn't cancer, it was mental health. And so that really drove us to include mental health in every single program that we have to make sure that that's always addressed. So in the recent sickle cell program, we made sure that we, brought that out in the discussion, and actually mental health and pain really go together. I mean, they're linked. It's the same organ that's mediating both of those issues. But I also want to share with you what I've learned about health equity, and this comes out of a huge study that was done about 20 years ago out of Kaiser. They looked at 50,000 people, and they looked at what are called adverse childhood events. People know about what this is? Okay, few of you. Well, this is something that we should all really educate ourselves about. They just published the 20-year follow-up of that. These are 10 items. These are basically things that happen to you before you're 18. They include somebody in your house smoke. Was there somebody that was incarcerated in your home? Did you witness violence? All of these kinds of things. And if you correlate ACEs, you can actually, if you've got 4, but 5 is kind of the magic number, 5, your rates of death from things like emphysema, from diabetes, from cancer, your chances of being on medication for depression, like 100%, 4-fold. Now, why is that important? It's important because there's an excellent movie called Resilience, a documentary. It's not enough, in my estimation, to identify a problem. You have to kind of couple it with a solution. So if a child is doing their homework and they're hearing the sounds of bullets, okay, and they're trying to focus on their homework, you can actually direct the child to put on her or his headphones and listen to music that would mitigate the effect of violence, okay? Just that little bit at that age can be the difference between a child reaching his or her full potential or being yet another awful statistic and having all kinds of health problems, let alone the loss of realizing maybe the person who's going to discover the cure for sickle cell disease or the next great artist. So why is this important, and what is the role of art in this? So, for me and for my family, we do not actually separate out art and science. They are really one. My father, who he grows crystals, he's now retired, but his particular area of expertise was the light emission properties of retinal cells in mice. So for us, and as kids, the first words that I learned were molecule, oxygen, spectroscopy. But looking at spectra, okay, looking at crystal formation is something that I see him doing with my sister's kids, to engage kids, the art and the beauty of that. When my mother, or cooking in the kitchen, of course the mother has 3 jobs, right? Not just her profession, but all the other things that she does. She would say, I'm going to boil the water, and it takes a lot of energy to boil it, and then not a lot, you can turn things down so that it's not as much to keep the water going. But idea this year of our 6th annual summit that I invite all of you to attend, because we've moved. We used to have it at the ARC. Every year we have a summit, but we moved to the Southeast Tennyson Learning Center, which is on Mississippi Avenue, is because it's got a lot more space. So please sign up for our listserv. You'll get automatic invitations. And the title and the theme is Incorporating the Arts to Improve the Health and Well-Being of DC. And here on cue is a little graphic. And I felt very strongly that, you know, things have been really heavy, especially in this city of late. My colleagues in psychiatry say that, you know, things are really, really bad. People are very, very stressed in this city for a variety of reasons. And basically pick a group and you will have been recently insulted or humiliated, right? So the other day, actually, I had a patient in severe distress and I tried to get her in to see a psychiatrist. She has insurance and it's not Medicare or Medicaid. That's a whole other issue. The first available was May. Okay, this is how bad things are. But the arts have and always will be the glue that gives us resilience. So what is our summit going to be? And then I'll close and then during the question-answer period, we can talk some more. And I would really invite you to go to our website so that you can learn about other work that we're doing. So we are going to feature artists from all over the city who've really been using art and healing for decades and longer. They may not have the methodology of studying it, but boy, do they have the experience and have practiced it. So who are the people that are going to be there? We've got Arts for the Aging, which uses all kinds of art to engage seniors with either cognitive or physical impairments. And we're going to have the Quicksilver group, a group of seniors do a dance. We're going to have the Blacks and Wax from the Southeast Tennyson Learning Center. These are kids that take on historic African-American persona. And Ms. Cora Berry just has done something incredible by creating the Southeast Tennyson Learning Center, using tennis as the hook to engage kids in academics. And arts are a vital and important part of engaging kids. Centronia, which is in Columbia Heights, and it's primarily it's a after-school program for kids up until the age of 5, primarily Latino, Central American immigrants, but also Ethiopians. The cutest thing ever. They use theater to teach kids about science and health. So one of the modules that, I kid you not, I told them to teach our medical students for, they have a sick teddy. So each of the kids, one gets dressed up as a pharmacist, as a vet, as a doctor. They have to learn how to take the history, take a throat swab. They swab it. They get the culture results back. I mean, it's just so cool. I can't tell you enough about that. We're going to have people from Gallaudet. We're going to have Whitman Walker. There's something called Flowetry. These are trans kids that every Friday night they get together. This is a way of engaging and keeping them in care. Who else? The Smith Center, that's been using art and cancer for decades. We've had actually a young lady, Penny Hollis, who uses film. She's a graduate of Howard Film School, to talk about mental health and issues. So I invite all of you to come. I think it's going to be very rich. And the closing panel, and this is where I'll end, is going to feature sound health. Sound health, you may have heard, is that wonderful initiative between the Kennedy Center and the NIH. The NIH is pouring millions of dollars, and Renee Fleming is the ambassador of this, to study the effects of music on the brain. And so Debbie Rudders, the president of the Kennedy Center, and a friend and a patient, helps to have patients, I said to her, you know, there's a lot of work that's being done here in DC. Yeah, the NIH has these, you know, yearly meetings where they spend a lot of money to bring people together. We've got artists right here. Shouldn't we bring them to the table, right? Absolutely. So these are just some of the examples of how art and science and health, I think that actually arts are the way to help move the needle in health equity, and burnout of clinicians, which is a whole other topic. That is the way that we can prevent and deal with burnout. So thanks for your attention.